everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Varun Rawat. I'm representing Entire Software and would be moderating the webinar today. So thank you so much for taking out the time and joining us in this wonderful webinar that we have planned. This is a follow-up webinar which we did earlier with RCSA. The topic of today's session will going to be how mobile technology can supercharge your candidate workforce in 2022. Next slide, please. So the session will be recorded and the audience lines will remain on mute just to avoid any background noises and distractions. We will also have some poll questions in between to make this webinar more engaging and interactive. We will love to hear your questions, and we will going to discuss the questions at the end of the webinar. Now, we also have some key terms which we have used in this webinar. So I'll quickly share what they are. So for candidates, we basically means like potential recruiters for on-hire staff. For workforce or on-hire staff, we mean candidates who have been onboarded. And for availability, we are referring to the process of confirming when your on-hire staff can work. Now, moving on to the agenda of the webinar, we will going to cover and outline the outcomes you can expect for today. We will introduce the candidate workforce flywheel of experience, engagement, and growth. We will also explore why this flywheel is so powerful and important if you want to grow your recruitment business. We will also expand on each of the core flywheel components so that you can identify how they compound each year. We will also showcase the availability flywheel, the personalization flywheel, the wow recruitment flywheel, and we will also share some quick wins for each flywheels. And at the end, we will going to recap what we will cover, in the presentation. Next slide, please. So the interesting part, we are like delighted to have with us a wonderful speaker today, Blake Thomson, as you can see on your screens as well. Blake, can you say hi?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, so Blake is the co-founder and CEO at Entire Software, and he actually has a lot of industry experience and actually grew up living and breathing in the recruitment agency, and worked in roles right from onboarding to payroll. Also, he has worked with a lot of agencies in every state in Australia and across industries to provide Entire Recruit as an end-to-end platform. We have also he has also got some really good expertise on observing what works, what scales, and what doesn't, and everything in between, like good, bad, ugly. And Blake also loves to provide consultation on technology, mobile systems, and people processes, and also supported the RCSA in a workforce management solution for the COVID-19 surge workforce program in 2022. So I'm delighted to have you, Blake, with us. And without further ado, I would like to give the control to you and to take us forward with the presentation. So over to you, Blake.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Varun. Guys, I'm very excited to be presenting, guys and girls, today to you. Now, I am in the podcast, the studio as such. It is a little warm, so forgive me if I might need to take my jacket off halfway through. Can you hear me okay, Varun? Am I clear? I've got the mic on. Should be pretty good.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, good. Beautiful. Let's get stuck into it. So we've actually got a poll to start, Varun.
So I'm just launching the poll now.
And this poll is about what you want to actually, what we're hoping that you want to take from this session today. So each of the polls will do about 20 to 30 seconds. There's a lot of people that just love hearing about new things. We've got a few looking for solutions to tech challenges. It definitely seems like mobile technology is the leader, and candidate retention and new things. which is great. We've got some really cool new stuff to show you. Okay, it looks like pretty much everyone's voted, so I will continue on. For those interested, we're equal 31% for mobile technology and new things, followed by candidate retention strategies. There's a few people with a couple tech challenges at the moment by the look of things too. All right, let's get into it now. What I'm hoping we've promised, this is what we've promised that we're hoping to deliver. The format will be a little bit different. So we are really going to focus on three things, which is the experience, engagement, and growth flywheel, which we're calling, you can see at the bottom, the candidate workforce flywheel. If you've never heard of a flywheel before, don't worry, we are going to talk all about it. This is what we hope you will get out of this, and at least an understanding of some of these concepts. Some of them are new, some of them you may be doing already, and some of them may be absolutely very surprising. I'm very excited to show you why some of these are so cool. In aside to that, there should be some quick wins, and we've sort of put a couple of things, just some ideas at the end of steps you can take away straight away from this webinar, at least to go and do something. And we've actually mapped out what we think you'll get out of this webinar based on where you sit currently in your business. As you know, we help people everywhere from startups to sort of big enterprises, and we've got all types on this today. So everyone, I think we have another poll before we start to get, no, so this is the flywheel poll. So we're going to talk about flywheels today, and I'm just very interested if anyone's ever actually heard of this concept. This is all to do with everything we're talking about really leads into the mobile workforce. But a flywheel is something it's not unique, it's not my idea, but it is a very powerful system for achieving growth. It's interesting. So two-thirds of our audience have not heard of flywheels. Sorry, three-quarters. Nearly three-quarters, 70%. Well, we're going to learn all about it, and I've got a slide just to help educate on this topic. So this is a key focus of what we're going to talk about today, and you'll see where the mobile technology piece is so critical in this flywheel. So in essence, this again will need to be important that we reference who is the geniuses behind this information. So Jim Collins, for those that don't know him, is a quite famous business consulting coach in the industry. Not this industry, like globally. He's very well known. He's written many different books. They're all worth reading. But he has a concept called a flywheel. And we've got the definition that he's actually put there, and there's his source. If you want it, we can make it available. The flywheel is simply a business mechanism. The idea of a flywheel, you push it, it's very hard to get moving, kind of like any business. Slowly over time, you take tiny little actions, and those little actions create little bits of momentum, and they start to incrementally grow and compound. And the key thing of a flywheel is as it compounds, it actually gets faster and faster and faster until you are an overnight success, and everyone's wondering, haven't heard of you. The Apple iPhone is an example of a flywheel that came out of 20 years. Now, hopefully, it doesn't always need to take that long. Now, you can see there we've got this image on the right, and that's just a simple way to show you a flywheel. Oop, I clicked too early. We've got experience. We've then got engagement, which leads to growth, which leads to a better experience. And you'll see where the mobile aspect actually comes into this and is so important. The idea being simply that a better experience leads to greater engagement. And this is, we're referring here to the candidate, we're calling it the candidate workforce because we're blending the two, the on-hire staff and candidates who are going through that process before they become sort of onboarded, because it actually translates the whole way through, and you'll see why. From engagement, you get growth, which leads to the ability to create a better experience. Again, the experience needs to change, it needs to evolve as we get bigger. Next, we're going to break down each of these sort of separately, and then we're going to actually give you some real examples that you can actually probably visualize in your own business. So let's talk about experience. You said finding out why does candidates suddenly care about your workforce technology system. So in the past, people would just work. They'd go to a site. They'd be happy to work. It didn't really matter if you did how you did your payroll, how you did your timesheeting, what the process was to recruit. However, what has always mattered, and we've got it there at the very top. This hasn't changed since iPhones. In fact, probably hasn't changed for 30 years. On-hire staff, especially, which is the core that we're focusing on today. And that's anyone from a 10-year, 5-year contract, 1 year, month term, 2 weeks, 1 day shift, 3 hours. They prefer control over where they work, what type of work, and when they work. It's important to note that has not changed. However, what has changed is how that happens, and a couple other things. So you'll see that these 5 key points actually start to repeat in terms of that flywheel effect. So the experience, new workforce generation, I'm now, unfortunately, in my 30s. When I was in high school, the first iPhone came out. I don't think I even got it till maybe 19 or 20. That was revolutionary at the time. Now that I'm in my 30s, I'm used to using my phone for work. The people entering your workforce now that are at uni, that are starting to go out into the world, were 10 years old roughly when the iPhone was released. So they've grown up with this technology. Their experience, they expect to be on the phone. If you cannot give them that experience, and we'll talk more why that leads to less engagement. Everyone is now comfortable with a much more personalized, it's become a lot more normal nowadays. And this flows on, it is very mobile focused. We're going to talk a lot about personalization, but it's both automated and personalized. No one wants to get a message saying, hello, dear no name. People expect to get their name in messages now. That didn't used to be the case 20 years ago. People would just get an email blast. The other thing that's changed is because technology is so interacted with everything, your candidates are now actually pretty much forced to deal with your tech stack in some area, whether it be recruitment, whether you're onboarding, your timesheeting, your payroll, and it will affect them. And if they have a bad experience, they will remember it. Competition, everyone knows competition's fiercer, and at the moment it is crazy. And with greater competition means more people in the market, more exposure, and you will get measured, unfortunately, we all do. Our software gets measured against how easy other software is. Your business will be measured against other businesses in if it's an easier or better experience. If we talk about that younger workforce, we know that they like things to be easy and simple. They're used to going to their phone and getting an Uber for their food, for their house with Airbnb, Upwork if you want to find someone to work, Uber Eats. They're used to going straight to their phone for self-service experience, and they've seen this exposure. And that's bleeding over into everything else in the industry. Now, so what is engagement? Well, the definition of engagement, it's become a bit of a buzzword, participating or sharing, taking part of. Now, why this matters more now than it used to is that the new workforce generation, actually, they care a lot more about who they're dealing with and what they're doing. There's a reason that sustainability, not-for-profit, Nike, not-for-profit shoes are now a big thing. Retailers now take a lot of time to make sure they're doing the right thing by people, and that engages a bigger workforce. The new workforce cares about that. If you're not personalized, it feels spammy, and that pushes people away. So that personalized experience, it's important. If it's not happening, becomes overwhelmed. Software platforms, not only are the candidates forced to use them, they actually rely on them to do things like put in a timesheet. If that doesn't happen, or they don't put in data for their recruitment process, they can't join your company. So not only does it have to be good experience, but if they're not engaged and willing to do it, it actually just breaks down the whole system. We talked about the competition. If your people are more engaged with you, they're less likely to work elsewhere. That's pretty simple. And self-service, by its nature, is more directive. I'm the one picking up shifts. I'm the one putting in timesheets. I expect to have that level of control. And if I'm engaged, I'm happy to do it. If I'm not having a good experience, I won't be engaged, and I'm not going to do it. And that's a key part of this growth flywheel. And the final part is growth. And this all happens. The young workers, are fantastic at sharing what is going on in their world. They love it. If you are doing a great experience, they're going to love the company and they are going to attract more of those good people. A personalized systems, and it's important because otherwise personalization is very high touch. You can't call everyone that wants to join your business, unfortunately. But if it's well personalized, it makes people feel good, makes it easy. It gives you the ability to build a repeat business because people want to come to you. Less friction in work because it's an easy experience and people are putting in that data simply that you need. As people begin to enjoy the experience even more, you find that the actual volume increases. And that leads to more shifts, more profitability because you've got more work happening from the same number of people. And we're going to bang on about self-service a bit, but when it's done right, it is absolutely the most profitable way to run a labour hire business, recruitment or staffing. You've got the people having a good experience, they're happy to engage and do it for you, and that leads to bigger growth for you. And more growth leads to a better experience because you can put more funds, more people, more systems into it. I believe we have another poll now, Varun.
Sure.
So this next question is all about availability because that's what we're going to be talking about next. And I can see we've got some customers here, so I'll be very interested where they are voting. Got yes sometimes, yes it's a major headache. We've nearly got everyone voted. Perfect. I will continue. The majority is saying yes sometimes, the rest are saying we've got a major headache. It's 60-40%, very clean split. Okay, well, we're going to talk a bit about availability. So everyone knows what availability is. It does not get the amount of love or attention probably that it deserves in terms of how actually important it is in your business. Now, why is availability? Firstly, we define availability as when an on-hire staff member can work. Why is it difficult? It's a constant juggling act between demand and supply, and we will look at why that is so critical in what you do every day. It's the reason you have jobs, why you have businesses, but it is tough. A key thing, that middle point there, your staff, your supplier stock, they're humans and they're usually casuals or contractors. And this is the way the world is moving. Most people want to work flexibly, but they're humans that then one day that they're taking the cat to the vet and then they've got a shift the next day and then the mother falls down the stairs and they need to take her to hospital. Babysitter may cancel. There could be an accident on the freeway tonight, but things change in their lives very, very quickly. And that's what makes it so difficult. You got stock that just actually will get up and walk off the shelf. Now, we don't want to talk about humans as stock as such, but this is more a concept. Now, most availability systems, in my experience, and it's a hard thing to get perfect, but most of them are a bad experience. And we've got a couple sort of key issues with most availability that we see in different businesses. So one, if it takes too long to update, we want to aim for less than 10 seconds. If it's longer than that to even punch in like a week, most research shows that that's just too long. People will not spend the time to do it. It's got to be live, in my opinion. When I started in recruitment agency at 16 or 15, the job of calling up nurses to ask them, can you give me availability for the next week, please, Sandra? And I'd get the week ahead and that'd be great. Put the phone down. The second that phone is down, anything can happen. And that leads to huge problems. You can't rely on that data. And we'll talk about why that oversell, undersell problem is why that becomes quite a negative flywheel for the business. Not self-service or mobile. Again, I was the one calling up those nurses. It needs to be a workforce or on-hire staff-driven event. If it's not, you're missing that need for control that they want. And secondly, it's a huge overhead resource. When we're talking about overhead resources, if it's not synced with whatever the scheduling or placement system is that you have, you then have to put additional resources on top to manage that, We've got to double check. We think Sandra can work next week. She said she could 3 days ago, but I called her then and she was doing something. We need to go back and double check. You want to pick up the phone with confidence and say, yes, so-and-so has said 100% they can work. All these things compound to lead to less profits. And next we're going to look at the oversell, undersell problem. So I'm hoping all our audience is familiar with the Goldilocks fable. Everyone knows, there's too much, too hot, too cold, and just right. Now, this is the long-term effect of availability. It's such a tiny part of your business. If you oversell, you're selling. The example of this is you've sold. You've sold a barista or a chef. Very important to have chefs. And you sold a chef to the restaurant for 10 hours because he told you last week he could definitely work on the Friday night. And you go to talk to him. He then says, no, I actually couldn't. I thought I emailed in that I couldn't do that. Holy crap. Now you've just made a promise to a customer that you don't have. That customer's going to be upset. OnHire staff is annoyed because you haven't listened to him. Or something might have come up and he said, no, look, I really can't. And then he feels bad. And you're also annoyed. Your team gets frustrated. That client loses confidence and stops booking with you, or at least stops using you for those really important last minute things. You lose that reliability. The OnHire staff becomes disengaged and they actually get less work because the client's giving less shifts. And the candidate or workforce member tells their friends, look, yeah, they give very last minute, or they don't listen to their availability. Now, this is easy to do when you've got 5 people, 10 people. When you have 100, when you have 1,000, clients have put out 1,000 people a day. Manually going through emails or checking forms that as soon as they're submitted on a website are updated doesn't work for this. And the other side of that, it's almost just as bad, is underselling. Now, this happens, we'll use that restaurant calls up, I need a chef for Friday night. You have a look and your availability actually says, no, sorry, mate, we can't help you. We don't have anyone that can fill that role. Now, you might actually have a chef sitting there on the couch that would work that day if he had an easy ability, 1, to see the job, 2, to actually maybe put in his availability to let you know. Now, see, that candidate's actually getting less work than he wants. Never mind, you're actually leaving money on the table. When candidates get less work than they want, what do? They start to look elsewhere. They're not working as much as they want, so they go looking for somewhere else. They tell their friends, look, they don't have as much work as I'd like. The client probably stops booking just as much because they're also they don't have any staff. It's the same thing as the oversell. A lot of the flow-on effects are the same, but you're actually losing probably revenue that's there. And then the big thing, you really have to go and recruit more staff because they leave because they don't think you have work. And you're usually getting less work per person, which is a lot less productive. And then, of course, we have in the middle. Now, it is a juggling act. It's hard to get that middle ground. You're constantly playing. It's a very unique business. You're playing with supply and demand all the time. But when you get it right, wow. And OnHire staff, they get as much work as they want. They will never go anywhere. And you're getting more out of them. You get a better reputation. Your profits go up and clients get huge confidence. When you say someone can work, they deliver. Think of the power if they call you and you can say, definitely 100%, I guarantee there will be a chef there tomorrow night. Because my system is that good and our people are that engaged with the experience that I know I can rely on that. The thing, it's not just the systems. You need to have the engagement, and it's got to usually be mobile because we're dealing with a mobile workforce. They've got to be actually updating that, and that's how you can then build that reliability. Now, we're going to take this another step deeper because availability is just one piece of a bigger pie, and we're calling it personalization. We haven't coined that term. That's obviously been around a little while. We've got this is just a very simple scenario, 2 agencies trying to fill a registered nurse at a hospital. It starts in 15 minutes and needs to work with children check. Now, we talk about why experience is important. Which of these do you think is a more enjoyable experience? Because if I'm working for agency banana, we're comparing apples and oranges, or bananas in this case. Not only is that going out to 200 people, which can be expensive, but the long-term effects of that means I'm probably getting 10 of those messages. Whereas if I was working with agency Apple, I'm only getting 3. So not only is for that just particular shift not a super efficient process, the long-term experience is not good. Now, this is really where your mobile part comes into play, because this is going directly, again, where are these younger workforces sitting there on their phone? You know, you can send emails, but that's not quick or easy to get to. Text messages are fine, and they have a place to play, and they will probably be still around for a long time. But a push notification that has a brand value that people can tap on, that takes them and is checking this information on the left-hand side. This is just one example, right? Now, a person can do this well when it's 5 people. When you've got 100 and 100 open bookings and everyone has a mass amount of open bookings, this gets harder. And this experience to engagement, we're going to touch on a bit more why this becomes so important. This is a negative flywheel. So flywheels can actually go both ways. They're not just a positive thing. Remember, this workforce core need, when they want, how they want, where they want. So experience is difficult to update. And we're just using availability, let alone all the other options. What happens to the engagement? People get spammed for notifications. There's a bit of a false economy to just banging out messages to everyone every time you've got an available shift or an available job. Because after a period of time, people switch off. We've tried this in the apps at different times, where we would send notifications when a shift was filled by someone else and they couldn't pick it up. And people hated it and they pushed them away from the app. It actually, you want the app to drive, if it's an app, or if it's a phone, you want it to drive a positive action, ideally. So if people are just getting messages, that's not relevant for me. That's too far. I never wanted to work that. I told them I couldn't do next Sunday. Or who do you think? Would I prefer to work here or the one where I get 3 messages and all of them are very interesting? But I know I've got to move quick because there'll be 4 or 5 other people there. The long-term effects of this poor engagement is people do miss some shifts that they want or jobs that they like. They don't have a good experience and they leave the business. And then you've got to go and work harder for it. There's a higher churn amount. It becomes a little bit spammy, especially now everyone is bombarded with messages, emails everywhere. Everyone knows email saturated. SMS, especially with contact tracing. I'm sure, I don't know if anyone else has had that contact tracing experience. Since I started doing it, I now get SMSs every day for Amazon packages and new businesses to run through COVID and digital stuff and everything in between. So there's a breach of data there, but we'll just forget about that. But SMS is also a very deep, heavy space. At the moment, push notifications are not too bad, and it depends on where they said there'll be new things in future, but it's probably going to be in the palm of someone's hand. Unfortunately, the big thing of this is this drives higher internal admin costs, higher operations. And if you put more people, or as some people experience now, putting more shifts, more demand into the system, it gets worse, not better, because you're just firing out more of bulk without targeting. We have our next poll now, which I'm quite interested to see the results of. So this is about personalization, particularly, and that aspect of delivering just what people need. Wow, now this is a very even split. We've got a couple that don't see the value, never have, don't see the value, that's fine. But the majority is not yet definitely very interested, got most of the time, and some, and then even split between sometimes and every interaction we have, which is impressive. It's not easy to do. I mean, there's a lot, the better your system is, the easier it is to personalize on scale, obviously. We still got a few people voting. So yeah, not yet, but interested is number 1, and most of the time is number 2. All right. Now we're going to get to some of the fun stuff. This is a flywheel in action, and we're focusing again on that mobile technology. So mobile is, as I said, the secret sauce. We've said this is an example. Availability is quick and easy. We just focus on that flywheel on the right. The engagement comes up. Staff are retained longer. They can give immediate feedback. Things are targeted. What happens? They work more shifts than they would otherwise. They generate more profits for the business and refer more friends, which leads to a better experience because you can put more money into that experience. And the experience for those staff members is actually better in itself. We've talked a bit about how important that availability is in general, but the best thing is that more shifts and more workers actually make this better, because the breadth of what you can offer becomes better. It's not really possible if you're not engaging through the mobile, because you don't have that speed. People can't update quickly. People can't, the experience where a lot of the workforce is going, expect to be there. Now, I'm going to introduce a completely new, different topic, which we promised, which is WOW Recruitment. So the core essence of this to remember, the core focus recruitment has never changed. You've got to match requirements from a client with a candidate or on-hire staff member. That hasn't changed in 100 years. You know, people used to use cards back in the old days, put it on a whiteboard. Now we use sometimes paper, but often computer systems. Now there's some people starting to use mobile phones. What has changed is the method and tools. And what we want to make sure we're doing is not taking our cards into the computer. Let's do things in a slightly newer way. Now, WOW Recruitment is not easy. Not everyone does it. I'll be interested to see the next poll that we do. But it's certainly easier when a market where the demand is outpacing supply. And the reason for that, as you can see on the top right, WOW Recruitment is fast as well as being very effective. Whereas the more standard of, temp, you build a pool and then you wait for a request to shift that pool out. Contracts or more traditional placements, you wait for a request, then you might recruit for that placement and put someone in there. And that's pretty similar to the permanent placement as well. So what is WOW? What does WOW actually stand for? WOW is walkout working. It has the most applicability to temps, labour hire and staffing. The whole point is that they walk out working, but it's also a WOW experience. Again, we've got another flywheel. This is the WOW flywheel. The experience, the candidate onboarding is self-paced, right? And where are they? They're on their phone. They're easy for them to apply. 60% of the applications are done mobile. The engagement is better because when they come to that final interview, the idea is the final interview, you actually are placing that person into a placement or a shift when they're sitting in front of you, be it in person or in Zoom, it doesn't matter. But that you've got all the data up to the point. Now you're trying to work things to a pinnacle, the timing of them putting in their information and your onboarding process. Your onboarding process to the point that there will be open placements. And again, it's not always easy to do that balancing act. You have to recruit a certain amount of people with the right flow of what's going out of your business. You do need to know some of the stats of how long you keep people, the lifetime value of each of your workforce staff, etc. But it's certainly a lot easier when you have thousands more shifts. And I know generally shifts and jobs now is easy to get. It's the workers and the candidates. And why is this so good? Well, that engagement is a great experience. You get more people working faster and quicker. I thought I had one other slide about this, but it doesn't seem to be there. That's right, I can talk to it. The reason that this engagement piece is so important, if you don't place people in that first 2 weeks, it's about 95% will never work with your business. And the stats show that in the industry average is 40% of on-hire staff who are hired never work a placement, be it a shift or a contract, after being onboarded. And that's a lot of wasted money. Because they go where the work is. If you go and join a place, and a lot of, especially in the casual world, a lot of them will work for multiple businesses. If I go to one and they give me a shift before I leave the office, because everything's done, all their data's up to date. You've done the reference checks in advance. Look, this needs technology to work. It's not easy, but it can be done. That leads to great experience, high engagement, and more shifts done, and they refer more friends because they tell them, oh, look, I literally got a job the day I finished the interview. It's incredible. Even if that interview takes a little bit longer, it's worth doing. And you've got to massage them through the process of going through it. It also ends up in having much less no-shows to your interviews. I think we have our second to the last poll. Looks like some of this is cut off. The question is mentioning WOW Recruitment. Could you see yourself doing it in your business? Oh, no one's saying that they would never do it. 10% is saying they already do it. Well done. Very impressive. I mean, in this, we're trying to avoid the common blocks, which is waiting for things like reference checks, waiting for things like police checks, which then take 2 weeks, and just, again, drag out the experience, reduce the engagement. They slow everything down. You know, if you get more people in the door straight into shifts, they'll probably work an extra 30 shifts for you. Maybe that might be a lot. Even 20, still a huge amount. We've got a few more voting. 64% think sounds great. 27 interested but skeptical. 9% already doing it. Well done. Just seeing how we're going for time. I think we're about right. So we promised some quick wins. Here they are. If you are an agency owner, get some feedback. Feedback's so important in business in general. But do it from your, this is important, successful candidates, right? There's lots of different candidates, but once people finish, ask them, just compare. It's very easy. Most people have been recruited more than once. You know, are you faster? Are you slower? How did they get jobs? You know, did they get an app? Cool. Did they use SMS? Did they use email? Maybe they use a WhatsApp. Maybe they use Facebook. Wouldn't necessarily recommend all those, but you want to see what else they're exposed to, what's out there. And then most important, how did they find it? Did they enjoy it? Because that's the biggest barrier to better quality people. Where they prefer the experience, they will refer their friends, and you will get more of those high quality people if that's you. It's a very easy question to ask. If you are a recruitment consultant or involved in that process, see if you can get to wow, and this is probably aimed more at the perms and the contracts in your own process. You know, remember, it does rely on some self-service by the onboarding candidate, but you can do this manually, theoretically, through email if you're committed to it. You can get all that information up to date because you're selling, what you're selling is, look, we do wow recruitment, which means by the time you leave this office, I will have a placement for you. But I need you to do all this in advance. And that's going to save you time, right? And you are making it will be a better experience because they will come out with a job. But it's important, if you just get everyone's data and get into all that work, and then they don't get any offers for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, some of them might even be out of date. They might have even forgotten about you. Like, this world moves very fast now. Again, we talked about how important mobile is. Focus on the process. See what steps do actually slow down those new and higher staff. You'll be surprised. Sometimes they're things that are just outdated and you don't even need to do anymore. Some things might be able to be automated. See if you can eliminate them, replace them, or even just put them right, or even at that point of final interview. Quick wins for leaders. Pretty simple. This is review availability process. Who does it? How long is it? We've talked about these stats, which are important. Is it live? Gold standard, try and sync it with whatever you're using, right? And, you know, entire clients are hopefully feeling very happy right now. We say you are the gold standard, but plenty of systems can do it. You know, plenty of systems can get you live availability. It might be in a different spot, but at least it can be live. And there is integrations you can find to integrate with whatever you're using for your rostering tool. Again, focus on what you can do. You know, probably, you know, from top to bottom in terms of who does it and how easy it is, the most important ones. We said if it's not accessible on mobile, it's not being done. It will get done, but it's not going to be updated enough to be really reliable, because you are dealing with a mobile workforce in general, like they're deployed out in the field. That's part one. Part two, as we said, they're getting younger. No one wants to pick up the phone and call in to give their availability anymore. If you are still relying on that, you will just have challenges in pulling in new quality staff. Quick wins for everyone. This is pretty simple. Communicate on the mobile. Most software databases have a free option to communicate. Well, not most, but ask your software provider if they do, or if not, what can they do to provide that. Or even just find a messaging tool. Even if you don't want to get a deep system, find a tool that can message straight to people's mobiles. Keep in mind, email is too slow. SMS has a cost. Phone calls are great for the experience and brand, but very expensive, difficult to scale. We love push notification. Everyone knows I bang on about it. You know, it's free, drives better engagement, and it's in that mobile. It's where you want. And if you go with a great software company, I'm not going to mention any names, but you can even get your logo to be a part of that brand engagement. I think we're at our last poll, Varun. And it's been a good pace. We had plenty to get to. I think we're finishing roughly right on time. So I'm hoping some of this was surprising. If it wasn't, we probably haven't done a very good job. So we have 61% of votes, a bit more. We've got a little bit for availability, a little bit for personalization. The wow recruitment, 20%. The flywheel was very interesting for 20% of people. And 45% thought all of it, which I will take that. Varun, I believe are we doing a passing to Q&A? Oh, sorry, let me wrap up. In summary, guys, thank you for that. Look, we will have copies of this for everyone. As you can see, that is our timer telling us we are done. What do we talk about? The workforce flywheel, that experience, engagement, and growth. And really just look at that. There's lots of little mini flywheels in your business. They make up this one big one. And they all pull levers that enhance. If you get it right, it just makes things happen. We've expanded on it. We've given you a couple examples. There's a lot more. We only had a little bit of time today. And we've just given some basic they're not action plans, but at least something you can go away and do in your current business, unless you've managed to find an absolutely perfect software that does it all for you, which Entire Recruit works very hard to deliver that to our customers. So thank you, everyone, so much for your time and attention. I can see we've kept pretty much everyone on the whole time, which is fantastic. Yeah, I think we're doing Q&A now.
Absolutely, Big. So I'd just like to take a pause here and invite questions. So all the audience, you can type your questions in the question box, and we'll take a minute. Although we have few questions, I'll take a few seconds pause and invite any more questions, and we'll try to cover as much as we can. However, in case if we will not be able to answer every question, we can connect separately to answer that.
Yep. Yeah, I've got it.
So I'll start with the first question. In the meanwhile, people can type in their questions. So the first question is that considering a flywheel is a technology or a mechanism, and if understood correctly, it starts slowly. I mean, how do you think it will be efficient for my business? I mean, everyone looks for benefits and profits sooner than later. So especially when it comes to recruitment. So what do you think?
Flywheel is a technology or mechanism. Yes, it is a mechanism. I'm just trying to understand. It starts slowly. That's right. How will be efficient for my business? How do I think? Well, any business. Okay, sorry, I was wondering, am I meant to know this business? Everyone looks for benefits and profits, especially when it comes to recruiting. Well, I'd say that's true, but what is a benefit? A benefit is something that gives value to someone. Now, what gives it? It's even more work, right? Which you get through giving a great experience and getting them engaged and giving them more work. The concept of the flywheel, there'll be many in the business, but this is one that you can actually kind of draw a line, and it's because it starts. Usually, really, you start with the experience part. If that part is good, and a good experience is that comes before benefits and profits. You can try and make a lot of money, but if that's what people, maybe their experience is that they just want money, and that's fine. The experience, it doesn't mean you still have to give them the work, and they've got to enjoy the process of getting it. If they hate getting contacted by you, and then you're giving them, then you'll lose that engagement. And if you don't have that engagement, the people won't stay around long enough. If they don't stay around long enough, you won't grow. You won't be able to give more people benefits, profits. Again, flywheel, the whole point of why flywheels are difficult is they start very slowly. You have to take a little effort, give a little push. You live a little push every day, improve that experience by 1% every day. And then when that starts to happen, the engagement starts, and then you work on the next part. And then it gathers speed. It gets faster, it gets more efficient. It produces more, and until a point, it has its own momentum. I hope I've answered that well.
Sure, thanks, Craig. That was very informative, Craig. So we have another question, which is that what do you think is, like among all the key stakeholders, who do you think is the one who's getting the maximum benefit using mobile technology? So the question is like whether it is your clients, your external workforce, or your internal team members, or what do you think is
Who gets the
the
most benefit
stakeholder
from
that's
the
getting the
technology?
maximum value?
Who gets the maximum value from the technology?
Yes, mobile technology. That's
From mobile
mobile.
technology. Well, if you look at the whole business as a whole, um, I'd like to think everybody can win. I mean, we haven't even touched on. We want to do another one talking about clients. We haven't even touched on that yet. I would like to say, end of the day, if it's your business, you're getting a benefit. But everyone along that value chain should actually be getting a good experience, and that's where it becomes a flywheel of everyone. The experience is not just better for the candidate; the experience is better also for the allocator scheduling on the phone. They don't have to call 10 people because the candidate or the workforce member has a great app. They're sending a notification and they get a response back straight away. They feel good. They've closed a shift. They closed 5 shifts in 10 minutes rather than 5 in an hour. They're happy and more engaged. Business owners happy and more engaged that that's happening. Workforce members happy, more engaged that it's happening and comes back more. So I find it hard to separate that, who gets more benefit. I will say at the moment, who's most important to engage on mobile is definitely the workforce, for the simple fact that they are out in the field and they are mobile. We call field, but barista, chef, construction worker, doesn't matter. They are going out to deliver work. They can't walk around with a laptop. Business owners can check things on a phone, but a lot of their stuff, is networking, growing, can be sitting in meetings and that. They don't have to go and work per hour to make money. So yeah, that would probably be my answer. It definitely benefits everyone, but the workforce member is the one who you need to focus on at the moment, especially. I'm sure that's going to change and evolve.
Sure. Thanks, Blake. That was very informative. So considering the time, I think we'll take other questions separately post this webinar. And now I would like to close the session by saying thanks to all of you who have, took the time out and joined us. I hope you find it useful and valuable. And if you have any questions or suggestions, please feel free to reach out to us. My email ID is varun.rawat@entiresoftware.com. We'll love to hear from you. And before we close, any closing note from you, Blake?
Oh, thank you everyone for coming. Look, we're going to start doing more of these. The next one will be focused on the client side of the experience, why that's important. And we want to bring you information, that we see the trends that's happening. We are in a candidate workforce short area work time at the moment. So yeah, this is only going to get more and more important, and I'm very happy to be allowed to bang on about it for 45 minutes. So thank you for everyone that's come in.
Thank you, Blake. Thanks for joining us today. So we are closing the webinar now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.